Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really fascinating and honestly pretty emotional phenomenon. Why returning home, particularly for British folks coming back from the United States, can feel so unexpectedly jarring. You know the drill. You pack up your life, you head back to the place where you grew up, and you expect it to wrap around you like a warm blanket. But for so many people, that is absolutely not what happens. Just listen to this reflection from a returning expat. I expected returning home to feel comforting. Instead, familiar streets somehow felt different. America had made me notice things I had stopped noticing about Britain. It really hits the nail on the head, right? It's not that your hometown suddenly shape-shifted while you were away. It's that you have changed. Your entire baseline for what feels normal has shifted. Suddenly, the narrow roads feel much narrower, and the gray sky feels just a little bit heavier. Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly changes inside a person when they experience an entirely different way of living? When you swap the historical, compact layout of the UK for the sprawling, supersized canvas of America, your brain quite literally rewires its expectations. To deconstruct exactly why this happens, we're going to walk through 5 key areas today: space and housing, salaries and careers, lifestyle differences, the American trade-offs, and finally, the psychological realization. To really grasp this, we have to talk about reverse culture shock. Basically, it's the unexpected emotional and psychological disorientation you experience when you return to your home country. We all anticipate regular culture shock when we move somewhere new, right? We expect the grocery stores to be a bit weird and the social cues to be slightly off, but you never really expect to feel like a tourist in your own hometown. This happens because living in a place like America fundamentally shifts your baseline expectations of space, convenience, and opportunity. So let's start with Section 1, Space and Housing Realities. Our physical environment shapes our daily psychology way more than we realize. Just look at the stark contrast here between the tightly packed red brick terraces of Britain and the sprawling, supersized plots of the American suburbs. The UK is an island nation with a very deep history, which means housing is generally defined by a highly compact footprint. Homes are squeezed together, and gardens are often pretty tiny. In contrast, the sheer physical scale and vast personal space you get in American suburbs is staggering. When Brits move to the US, they're often introduced to square footage they could literally never dream of back home. Larger rooms, massive driveways, and a sense of physical breathing room that quickly just becomes their new normal. And if you've ever tried flat hunting in a place like London, you know that major UK cities are currently under intense rent and cost of living pressures. That space issue in the UK, it's heavily compounded by economics. For a lot of young professionals or growing families, trying to scale up their living situation in Britain feels like an impossible uphill battle against affordability. This immense financial pressure is actually a massive push factor that gets people looking across the Atlantic in the first place, hoping to find a spot where their housing budget might actually buy them some real room to grow. Moving right along to Section 2, Salaries and Career Opportunities. Let's take a look at how career ceilings actually differ across these two nations. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer discrepancy in compensation. When we compare average salaries and career growth ceilings in sectors like tech, medicine, and engineering, the American market often provides significantly higher compensation and a noticeably higher theoretical ceiling for progression compared to the UK equivalents. For an ambitious professional, the US can represent a landscape of aggressive optimism, where the financial rewards for highly specialized work can seriously outpace what is traditionally available back in Britain. That brings us to Section 3, Lifestyle and Infrastructure Differences. This is where the daily rhythm of life really starts to rewrite a person's ingrained habits. Think about how things are laid out. American infrastructure is built entirely for the modern era. It's sprawling, it revolves around convenience, and it's designed for high-volume consumerism. Everything is big, open, and incredibly easy to access. Britain, on the other hand, is built on centuries of history. Cobblestone streets and centuries-old town planning are absolutely beautiful, for sure, but they don't exactly accommodate multi-lane highways or big-box convenience. The contrast between these two environments dramatically shapes how you spend your weekends, how you shop, and honestly, how you just exist in public spaces. It's pretty easy to see how Brits get hooked on these day-to-day perks. The convenient roads let you drive literally anywhere effortlessly, and the hyper-friendly, highly attentive customer service can be quite a pleasant shock to the typically reserved British system. Add in the incredibly varied weather and a culture that heavily promotes an outdoor lifestyle, plus access to truly majestic, vast national parks. All these elements combine to create a deeply addictive, highly convenient, and expansive way of life. But, as we know, this expansive lifestyle is not a flawless utopia. Every system has its price. So the crucial point is Section 4, the American trade-offs. You really can't discuss moving between these countries without talking about healthcare. On one side, you have the UK's National Health Service, which provides universal care free at the point of use, but is currently facing serious, well-documented structural pressures and wait times. On the flip side, you have the American healthcare system. While it can offer incredible cutting-edge medical facilities, it comes with a highly complex, intensely high-cost reality that is heavily tied to private insurance. For many expats, navigating copays, premiums, and out-of-pocket maximums becomes a major underlying source of daily anxiety that simply doesn't exist back home. And beyond healthcare, the hidden costs seep into daily life. Extreme car dependency is a huge factor. Yes, American roads are convenient, but in many places, you literally cannot live without a vehicle. There is a profound lack of public walkability in most U.S. suburbs. Furthermore, the sheer geographic isolation means a massive distance from family, a disconnect from long-standing community, and an absence of the deep, visible history that surrounds you everywhere in Britain. Over time, these missing elements can begin to weigh incredibly heavily on a person's spirit. This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate trade-off. In the UK, the ease of walkability and public transportation means you can pop down to the local pub, walk to the shops, and bump into neighbors organically. It builds instant community. In the United States, the absolute necessity of owning a car means you gain an incredible amount of personal space and autonomy, but you often lose those simple, serendipitous, walkable community connections. You're insulated in your big house, and you're insulated in your car. Which brings us to our final point, Section 5, the psychological realization. Why do expats feel so deeply conflicted when they finally touch back down on UK soil? The truth of the matter is that America isn't perfect, and Britain certainly isn't either. Both nations require massive compromises. But for some individuals, America represents something highly specific that they feel they are missing back home. It offers physical space, career opportunity, a cultural baseline of optimism, and fundamentally, the feeling that their future can still become something bigger. When they return to Britain, the reverse culture shock is the painful realization that you can't simply unknow the scale of what you experienced across the Atlantic. We'll wrap up today's explainer with this lingering question. Do you have to leave home to finally understand what you truly value? Sometimes it takes stepping entirely out of your own world, into a landscape of superhighways and vast suburbs, to figure out whether your heart truly longs for boundless opportunity or if it really just misses the quiet familiarity of a walkable street and a local community. It's a deeply personal choice, and one that changes you forever. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the world around you.